I'm Jeanie Nickel.
And I'm Josh Byers.
And we're here to bring you this week's Grande Film Reviews. This week's movie, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, will be available to see at the Granada this Thanksgiving week and into December.
Fantastic Beasts is the first movie in a new series set in the wizarding world of Harry Potter.
In 1926, British wizard Newt Scamander is found in the midst of studying and documenting various magical creatures around the world. He briefly stops in New York City when various beasts escape the magically expanded suitcase he uses to house them.
With the help of his supporting cast, Newt must use his expertise to recapture all the escaped creatures before they expose the secret wizarding world to the non-magic populace. All the while, sinister forces hatch secret plots in the dark alleys of New York City.
Let's jump in.
So, you're the guy with the case full of monsters, huh?
Whose travels first?
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Grande Film Reviews. I'm here with Josh and Bridger and we're going to be talking about Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Josh, what's your overall impression of the film?
I liked it. You know, I will stand by what I thought when I walked out of it, is that no matter what you do, no matter what characters you create, if you're in the Harry Potter world, you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to enjoy it. That's just how it is. It's the Harry Potter is so sought after. So that was kind of my original first initial thought. But overall, I liked it a lot. I found some issues with it, which I'll get into later. But yeah, I did enjoy it.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, no,
Jeanie?
I really thought it kept with the Harry Potter aesthetic and the whole world. I felt it fit really nicely to what we've already established as in the Harry Potter universe. Yeah, like Josh said, there was some things we'll talk about later. I probably would have done differently, but overall, I had a good time and I walked out happy. So
Yeah, I agree. It was pretty enjoyable. I'll admit, actually, a bit more than the actual books in the Harry Potter series, I really loved the little book that this is based on, even more so. And so this was actually a pretty pleasant treat as well. And yeah, there were some issues with it, that's for sure. But it was definitely still a worthwhile film regardless.
Yeah, no, I never actually read the original book or the actual Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them book.
It's
Yeah.
really small, actually.
Yeah.
It's only like 100 or so pages, and there's not too much there, but there's a little blurb on like every single beast that they
it's
even
like a little
Just cool.
guidebook.
briefly
That's cool, yeah.
mention. Even the brief is like, oh, and there's such a thing as a hobgoblin nibbler, or something like that. They have like a paragraph on it.
Oh,
It's-
well,
it's
even
nice.
in the movie, I smiled a little bit when he says, "I'm writing a book," and I'm like, I know what book you're writing. I haven't read it, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. I'll have to read that or something. I don't know if I know anybody that owns it, but I'll have to. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess I'll start off with something that I liked. A couple of things about the movie
yeah.
that I liked. Well, I think the best part about it was it did not rely on nostalgia. I mean, there were some points in there where they referenced certain characters. Dumbledore, that's not really a spoiler, I don't think.
that's fine.
Yeah, so, but I think that it was good that it didn't rely on it. Which I was a little concerned because it's the same director who did the last few Harry Potter movies, and I was maybe kind of scared that he might rely on that too much, but he didn't, which I was pretty happy about. I think that's important because although I love being able to remember the things about the Harry Potter movies that were awesome, it's not.
Still worked as a standalone.
Yes, it
Yeah.
totally did. And Star Wars, to bring back to a movie that relied heavily on nostalgia, Star Wars is just like that, like Episode 7, I mean. So that's an example of it just purely making money off of the fact that its name is Star Wars, But Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them wasn't quite like that. Another thing was that I felt that you know how in the first couple of movies, the Harry Potter movies, you have the second and the first where they're kind of warm-hearted. There's there's some serious moments, but it's all warm-hearted and everybody's kind of in a good mood. And then like, bam, Harry hits puberty and 13, and then 3 comes around and like
It's dark.
yeah, we can all relate to it, you know. It's just like, and although in those movies it's uplifting and enjoyable at times, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them had bits of both, and it was well balanced out. You know, the parts where we saw Percy Graves, his parts were a little bit more dark with his scenes with Credence, thank you. Yeah, and those were good. But then you flipped over to I can't remember his name. The guy that he met.
Right.
Jacob?
Jacob, thank you. Yeah, Jacob Kowalski. Yeah. Those parts were good, and so I really liked the fact that it was tonal wise, like it was able to be balanced out that way, which
Absolutely.
and I thought that was really well done. So those are kind of the main things. As for the acting, which I'm always going to concentrate on because that's something I always look at. I will always be a big fan of Colin Farrell, no matter what. He plays a wonderful character in this movie, and Colin Farrell, I will always love him, and so I was a big fan of him in this, and that was something that I really that stuck out to me was his acting particularly, but that's a bit biased, I will say.
Yeah.
All the rest of the stuff, the supporting characters you don't know as much, like Catherine Watterson, she did a good job.
And who was she? Sorry.
She was
Queenie or Tina?
Tina, not
Okay.
Queenie, yeah. Not the blonde one.
Yeah, Tina.
Yeah. So, those characters I didn't know as well, but I thought they all did a really good job in their acting, in that aspect. So I at least want to talk about
Right.
the acting. So
Right.
that's one part. Yeah.
I really liked how they took the culture of 1920s New York and end of 1920s America and really embedded that in their tone of their movie.
Yeah.
That was a really big part of how they created their environment. As far as how wizards relate to muggles, or no-mages as they're called in America, and how the Magical Congress, their policies as far as magical creatures and no-mages and all of that. I think it was really indicative of America at the time, so it was really interesting to see how that bled over into their culture as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say that the part that I did like best would again be the Fantastic Beasts themselves.
Yeah.
They were easily my favorite part.
Yeah.
There was just so much character, and while the backgrounds were CG, and that made a few issues in the shooting process pretty apparent, despite that they were gorgeous. Like, to see all the environments there, the exact ecosystems that each of the beasts would try to live in and such was very exciting and nice. If anything, that leads me to the thing I didn't like about the film, is that it should have had more of that. I mean, if the film is called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, it should have more of the beasts and more of a focus on that. I feel like in the latter half of the film, it started to get a little bit derailed and go towards this kind of like a B-movie, like an action plot thing, and it felt not as cohesive.
Yeah. Jeanie, you can.
Oh no, I'd actually agree. I wanted more beasts in general. The thing is, I think they wanted to fit a lot into this first film, and part of that is doing a lot of setup for later films.
Right, because it's the first of 5, right?
Yeah.
Which
So
I hope each one is still just as
Yeah.
good as like a standalone.
right, because I felt
We'll
this
see.
one was quite good, like just by
Yeah.
itself. If though I am looking forward to the sequels, but
Yep.
I felt like it was trying to put a lot of plot elements into this one movie, so things got a little wonky toward the end. Some cuts maybe could have been made to make it just a little bit more smooth, but
It was also 2 hours long.
it's a long movie.
Yeah.
It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Yeah. For me, I had a couple of things. One, I found that the ending, they all kind of fall underneath the same thing, I guess, but the ending wasn't handled as well as I wanted it to do. As I understand that they had to have a certain, along with introducing the characters or the beasts and having the audience experience the beast while Newt is looking for them. It's also, you also have to have an actual plot in order to get things moving.
Right.
And unfortunately, they kind of shoehorned that plot, which brings me into my next problem, is that this world, it concentrated too much on creating a world and getting it going than really just delving into like the actual story, I guess. Yeah, the actual plot. So it was just like, hey, we've got all these things going on. Here's the story and here's the characters, all that. But we also have to take these characters and push them forward so that we can make 5 movies out of this, you know. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't as apparent to me as those kind of things can be in other ones. Like superhero movies are known for that. I mean, people don't go to superhero movies to see the movies. People go to wait after the credits to see what happens next, you know. So that kind of same thing was a little bit set in this as well, but disguised better. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Again, it was a lot stronger of a standalone movie than a lot of superhero films, but it definitely still had that, hey, we're setting things up, go see our sequels, you know? Sort of thing.
And in general, it kind of lacked a bit of subtlety, actually. A lot of stuff was pretty direct, and a few of the plot threads didn't really make a ton of sense as well.
Yeah, there were some things, we're being intentionally vague because we don't want to spoil anything, but there were some things that I kind of had to think about later and go, oh, that's what they were going for. Oh, okay, you know, that's what they were probably trying to do.
I don't know. I mean, I understand your whole comment about subtlety, but I will disagree and say that it's Harry Potter, and nothing about that world is subtle in this forest. So I'm like, it's okay. You don't need to be subtle as long as it's done well, you know. And in times it wasn't, in times it was.
Yes,
so,
this is true.
Right.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, I think to get into my overall thoughts and whether or not I would suggest this, I really liked it. I definitely, in this particular situation with this film, the good outweighs the bad. Totally. I would totally suggest this, mainly because I am a big fan of Harry Potter. I wasn't a big reader growing up, and these were the books I always read. You know, I've read these books a couple of different times, as a lot of you have. You know, I know people who read them once a year, you know.
Yeah, it's a tradition.
Yeah. And I've never been a big reader. You could ask my mother, like, I don't read. And I loved these books, and I loved the movies, and I loved this one. Because I was able to go back into the world of Harry Potter and experience it through new characters. And I think that's what is the best part about it. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, you'll love it. If you like the movies but never read the books, but are kind of curious to know how this one is, I think you'll like it and you'll enjoy it. If you're not a fan of Harry Potter, then maybe
that's an important kind of a distinction, is that it's a good film even if you're just a casual fan. It's not just for the diehard, like, oh, I bleed Harry Potter fan. It's actually good even if you're just casually acquainted. It's still pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. Jeanie?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I really was happy with the way it turned out. Again, I too was a really diehard fan growing up, but I think even if I wasn't, I'd still really like it. It does help that because there isn't an actual book, there's no comparison to be made.
Good point. Good point. Yep.
So, so there's no actual content we have to weigh. Is the book or the movie better? Because, I mean, unless this was a nature documentary, which I'd be so on board for.
That'd be cool. I think I might like that better, actually, but I might be the only one.
David Attenborough, Planet Earth style, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find It.
Oh my God, yes, please. Yes.
But no, I definitely recommend seeing it. It's, fun, kind of exciting, new thing, Harry Potter thing to get into that is still totally accessible, even if you're not a diehard fan.
Great new characters too. Likable characters that are fun to watch.
And if you have never seen any Harry Potter, what do you think? Or if you have no idea about it, like, not that that's many people. But
Right.
Well, yeah.
Oh, there are some. There are some references thrown in that you may not understand, but I still think, even if this is your
Yeah.
very first Harry Potter, I think that's still okay.
Yeah, you should be
Still
okay.
not a bad film.
I mean, you might end up Googling stuff or trying to figure some stuff out at the end of it, but I don't know that it would take away from your overall experience of the movie if you were just to look at it as its own thing. If it's your first, if it's your first time experience Harry Potter or the world of Harry Potter.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for joining us in today's episode of Grand Film Reviews. Be sure to tune in next time. For now, we'd like to thank La Grande Live TV for making this happen. Be sure to like them on Facebook and tune in for more content pertinent to the Grand Ronde Valley.